Welcome students. Welcome to the class. Course you are studying is Animal Diversity 2 Biology of Chordates and instructor is Dr. Sneha, Assistant Professor, Department of Zoology, St. Joseph's College for Women, Vishakhapatnam. Topic you are studying is Respiratory System of Frog. We are going to study Respiratory System of Frog in two parts. In this class, you're studying the part 1 of respiratory system of frog. And the contents of this topic includes respiratory system of frog, types of respiration, respiratory organs, and their breathing mechanism. Learning outcomes of this topic includes you can understand the advantages of each type of respiration in different life stages and environments. Identify the key respiratory organs in frogs, including the skin and lungs, and their adaptations for efficient gas exchange. You can analyze the structural differences and functional roles of these organs in oxygen uptake and carbon dioxide release. What is respiration? Respiration is a biochemical process in which living organisms take in oxygen from the environment and use it to oxidize the organic molecules, primarily glucose, to produce energy. This energy is essential for maintaining your bodily functions, all cellular functions, and overall metabolic activities. During this process of catabolic reaction, carbon dioxide is produced as an end product or byproduct and is subsequently expelled from the organism. So this whole combined process is known as respiration. Respiration in frog is actually we can say as two different categories. That's what I have showed in this chart. As because of their habitatic conditions where they are living, we can already know that the tadpole larva is completely an aquatic in habit. On the other hand, the adults, they going to lead the life of both aquatic and terrestrial. So because this type of habitatic conditions, they can further influence the type of respiratory organs what they are having. As we can see the difference, the tadpole larva, because of its aquatic nature, they are going to respire with the help of the gills. On the other hand, the adults which are having the habitat of aquatic and terrestrial, they are going to respire with the help of the three different types of respiratory organs. That is what through skin, buccopharyngeal respiration, that is what buccal cavity, and as well as through lungs also they can respire. Now the types of respiration what we can see in frog, that is what three different categories. That is what cutaneous respiration, that means the respiration here the respiratory organ is basically the skin. So that type of respiration we are calling it as cutaneous. On the other hand, if the respiration is taking place with the help of the buccal cavity, then that respiration is known as buccopharyngeal respiration. If the respiration is happening through the help of lungs, with the help of lungs, then that is known as pulmonary respiration. First, we will start with cutaneous respiration. Cutaneous respiration takes place all the time, whether the frog is in or out the water. When the frog is underwater or hibernating, it is the only mode of respiration. There is a rich supply of blood in the skin and it is permeable to gases. So that is the reason why frog skin is always moist because of presence of the mucus glands, and this is the reason because for most of the time the frog is going to respire with the help of its skin as a respiratory organ. So that's why for this oxygen must first dissolve in a moist surface before it diffuses into the blood. This is also one of the reason the frogs always they're going to prefer to stay near the water and keep their skin moist, and as well as they're going to have the mucus glands which they're going to secrete the mucus which actually prevents the skin in the to dry out. The movement is not required in cutaneous respiration as skin remains exposed to air or water continuously. So this is a preferable mode of respiration in frogs whenever they're going to hibernate. It might be in winters or summers, or else whether they are present inside the water. Now, the second category of respiration, that is what buccopharyngeal respiration or buccal respiration, what we are saying. So, this type of respiration is going to be happen with the help of the buccal cavity, that is what present inside the mouth of the frog. So here the frog's buccal cavity is having a unique type of mucus lining which is richly supplied with the blood capillaries, and always this because of presence of this mucus lining, the buccal cavity of the frog is always going to be kept moist with the help of the secretion of the mucus. And buccal respiration involves actually the two steps what we can say, that is what lowering and as well as raising of the floor of the buccal cavity. First, see, in this buccal respiration, there are two different stages are there. That is what inspiration and as well as the expiration. The inspiration starts with the first step, that is what closing of the mouth. So during this type of the step, what happens is the mouth and glottis both are going to be kept closed, preventing air from entering into or as well as leaving the lungs directly. Now, the buccal cavity, what happens here, when the floor of the buccal cavity lowers, air is automatically drawn into the buccal cavity with the help of the external nostrils. So now, air movement during this process does not involve the lungs directly. So instead of that, it actually focuses on the buccal cavity. So now in this here we can see this diagram actually predicting the both the stages of inspiration as well as expiration. As we can see in this inspiration process, what is actually happens, the buccal cavity expands. So because of this expanding of buccal cavity, what happens is the air is going to drawn into inside the buccal cavity. So now as the air is trapped inside the buccal cavity which is carrying oxygen, and as you already know that the buccal cavity is lined with a mucus lining. So because of the this mucus lining, what happens is their exchange of the gas is going to be happen. And now we will see about the next step, that is what expiration. So here what happens, see, so now as the air is already present inside the buccal cavity, so as we already discussed that because of presence of that mucus lining where exchange of gas is going to be happen. So the oxygen whatever is present inside that buccal cavity, now the exchange is going to be happen because the buccal cavity is having rich supply of the blood capillary network. So in exchange, what happens? The CO2 is going to be formed inside the that means because of this gaseous exchange simultaneously, CO2 is going to be diffused from the blood into the buccal cavity. So now this CO2 is actually where it is present. It is present inside the buccal cavity. So now this has to come outside with the help of the expiration process. So for this process, for this step, what actually happens is when the floor of the buccal cavity is going to be raised. So now because of this raising of buccal cavity, what happens? The buccal cavity space is going to get decreased. So automatically what happens? The carbon dioxide is expelled outside with a force through the nostrils. So this is how the inspiration and expiration is going to be happen simply with the help of the lowering of the buccal cavity. When the lowering is happening, what happens? The air is entering into inside the buccal cavity. On the other hand, in the next step, when the buccal cavity floor is going to get raised, then what happens? The CO2 what is present inside the buccal cavity is going to be forcefully expelled. So this is how the buccal respiration is going to be happen with the help of the mucus lining that is what present inside the buccal cavity. The summary of this topic till what we have discussed. So in this topic, we have discussed about only two different types of respiration. That is what cutaneous and as well as the buccopharyngeal or buccal cavity respirations. In the part 2, we will further continue. So now the summary includes the respiratory system of frogs is adapted for both aquatic and terrestrial life stages, featuring a dual mechanism of cutaneous and buccal and as well as pulmonary respiration. As tadpole larva, which respires primarily through their gills because of its aquatic habit, upon metamorphosis, when it changes into adult, they develop lungs. With the help of lungs, they're going to respire on the land. Frog lungs are characterized by a spongy texture and a rich capillary network, optimizing surface area for gaseous exchange. This mechanism supports the efficient oxygen uptake and carbon dioxide release, essential for sustaining metabolic needs during both rest and activity in terrestrial environments. The ability to utilize both cutaneous and pulmonary respiration enhances the frog's adaptability to varied habits. These are the references cited for this topic. Thank you, students, for listening the class.